World War I, also known as the Great War, began with the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, who was the Archduke of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Occurring in 1914, Ferdinand's assassination spurred on many conflicts in Europe, which eventually escalated and spread to the entire world. Once the war began, there were two different groups fighting against each other. One side was named the Central Power, and it consisted of Austro-Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, Germany, and Bulgaria. The other side of the conflict were the Allied powers, which consisted of the United States, Italy, the United Kingdom, Russia, Serbia, France, and Belgium. The conflict between these two sides lasted over 4 years, with the war finally ending in 1918. World War I was not caused by one event. Aside from the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, there were many incidents that contributed to the start of the war. In the early 20th century, many European countries started adopting new societal, political, economical, and military policies. These new governmental policies were imperialism, militarism, and nationalism. Furthermore, mutual defense agreements between many countries in Europe created a string of combined powers ready to declare war on any country looking to threaten one of their fellow allies. Both factors combined, causing an exponential increase in tension and conflict that blazed across Europe and eventually led to the beginning of the Great War. Before the war, a great deal of alliances, or mutual defense agreements, were created by a vast majority of the existing European countries. Leading up to World War I, two major alliance agreements, or ententes, existed in European politics. One was known as the Triple Entente, and the other was named the Triple Alliance. Both alliances contributed a great deal to the war because they were ultimately the deciding factor of which side each country ended up fighting for. The Triple Alliance was the first agreement to be penned in the years preceding World War I. The pact was originally written in 1887 when Germany, the Kingdom of Italy, and Austro-Hungary joined together in a military pact stating that if any of the three countries were attacked by an unprovoked entity, the others would provide support through military action. Germany, Italy, and Austro-Hungary rewrote these agreements numerous times throughout the next 30 years. However, a major development occurred in 1902. Italy decided to override the agreement and secretly signed a similar agreement with France, which ended up keeping Italy neutral during the war, besides it could not fight on either side. Italy's action left Germany and Austro-Hungary as the only two major powers of the Central Powers of World War I. The alliance of Germany and Austro-Hungary was vital to their war efforts. Without each other's supports, Austro-Hungary and Germany would have had a very difficult time fighting the war that ended up being against the entire world. On the other side of the conflict stood the countries that made up the Triple Entente. This alliance, consisting of Russia, France, and Great Britain, formed the core of the Allied powers during the war. Similarly to the Triple Alliance, the Triple Entente was rooted in multiple other pre-existing treaties. The first of such treaties came to be in 1894 and was known as the Franco-Russian Alliance. The treaty was only between France and Russia. However, in 1904, Great Britain began talks with Russia and they ultimately decided on a peace agreement of their own. Due to the fact that France and Russia were already in close relations, in 1907, France and Great Britain became allies as well. Great Britain negotiated itself into the existing two-way agreement, ultimately creating the Triple Entente. This occurrence proved crucial in the coming war efforts. Without it, there would have been no unified power to combat the Triple Alliance. Instead, the aggressions by the Triple Alliance might have left all of Europe reeling without any plans of attack, which may very well have led to a different outcome of World War I. Europe's new governmental practices each had a unique but similar effect on the war. Imperialism is defined as the act of increasing wealth and power through the conquering of other nations, which created a very hostile environment in Europe. Lands in Africa and Asia were viewed as being very resource-rich by a swath of countries in Europe. Vying for control of such areas caused a great deal of friction in European politics. Increasing this friction was militarism, defined as the aggressive process of promoting and strengthening one's military. This lust for a strong military gave each country the tools they needed to become empires. By the start of the war, Germany was the clear leader in terms of military advancements, and it greatly affected their choices throughout the war. However, of the three practices, nationalism might have played the largest role in the start of the war. The people living in Bosnia-Herzegovina, known as Slavs, wished to secede from the Austro-Hungarian Empire and join the existing country of Serbia. This nationalism spread to other groups of people across Europe, causing a great deal of unrest in many countries, which compounded the already mounting tension between countries. Most notably, a radical Serbian nationalist named Gavrilo Princip was the man who assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie. Before the assassination, Gavrilo Princip joined a revolutionary group known as the Young Bosnians, or the Black Hand, which advocated the conjoining of Serbia and Bosnia-Herzegovina. At the time, Archduke Franz Ferdinand greatly opposed this act. Eventually, the Black Hand began planning an assassination plot. The Black Hand, working with the Serbian government and intelligence agencies, chose June 28, 1914 as the perfect day to execute their plan. Intelligence discovered that Ferdinand was planning on visiting Sarajevo, a city in Bosnia-Herzegovina, to meet with General Oskar Petoric to discuss military actions in the surrounding area. During his visit, Ferdinand would be driving around in a convertible in the middle of an entourage. After discussing many possible options, the decision was made to have a group of men travel to Sarajevo and hide out in the crowd of people watching the Archduke. The plan was that when the group saw Ferdinand, they were supposed to throw a grenade in an open convertible, killing both he and his wife. To complete this assignment, the Black Hand chose to send Princip and 2 other men to Sarajevo and have them rendezvous with 6 other associates who would help them with the attack. Armed with guns and grenades, the group set out for Sarajevo. Once in Sarajevo, the group found the designated street and blended in as best they could. When the group finally saw Ferdinand's car, they got ready to carry out the plan. Ferdinand drove past, and a Jagelko Kabritovich, one of the other men sent by the Black Hand, threw a grenade at the car. However, the driver took evasive action and tried to escape the grenade. Not being quite fast enough, the great grenade still hit the car, but instead of hitting the Archduke and Sophie, the grenade careened off the hood and landed under the car behind the couple and exploded underneath it. The Archduke driver sped away from the scene, and Ferdinand has advised to leave the country immediately. However, Ferdinand insisted on visiting the men that were injured by the grenade intended for him. Thinking that the plan had been foiled, Princip fled the scene and found an open-air cafe to sit at while planning his next move. With a brilliant stroke of luck, none other than Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife drove slowly past the open cafe and started reversing out of the alleyway. Seizing his opportunity, Princip jumped to his feet, ran to the road, and unloaded his entire gun at Franz and Sophie Ferdinand before being restrained by nearby guards. Even though Princip was restrained, the damage had already been done. Princip shot both Archduke Franz Ferdinand and Sophie Ferdinand fatally, and they died within the following hour. This sent the entire world into shock, and war was soon to follow. In the days following the assassination, the actions of the Triple Alliance started to take shape. Germany publicly released their support of whatever action Austria planned on doing retaliate against Serbia, because both countries believed that Ferdinand's assassination was a direct action of war by Serbia. At first, Austria sent an ultimatum and gave Serbia 2 days to comply and accept these terms. In response, Serbia accepted all but one of the terms. However, this was not good enough for Austria, and they declared war on Serbia, with Germany following close behind. At this point, the rest of the world realized that the Axis powers were not to be taken lightly. Russia was the first of the Allied countries to act. Within a few days of Austria's declaration of war on Serbia, Russia mobilized troops in preparation of supporting Serbia. Germany did not take kindly to this and demanded Russia to cease all military action in the area. In addition, Germany gave a similar demand to France. However, neither Russia or France complied with the orders from Germany, and both countries declared war on Germany. The only major European power left was Great Britain, as they had been trying to mediate between the group of conflicting countries. Nevertheless, the time had come for Great Britain to make a decision regarding the war efforts. Due to Britain's pre-existing ties to France and Russia, Britain declared war on Germany and Austria-Hungary on August 4, 1914. This action by Great Britain marked the start of the First World War. A little over a month had passed since the assassination of Franz and Sophie Ferdinand, and the world was already at war. This indicates how much tension was present in Europe preceding the war. Rivalries had always been present between the countries in Europe, but they were greatly accentuated due to the rise in popularity of militarism, imperialism, and nationalism. Countries competing against each other can always be dangerous. However, that is especially true when each country is actively trying to make their military the strongest. Alliances between various powers were made in secret, resulting in 2 massive forces in Europe. Ferdinand's assassination was definitely pivotal to the start of the war, but it was also just a linchpin that gave way, rapidly escalating pre-existing years of conflict and strife into war.